Well, let's get to our first discussion now. After gaining independence in 1960, Nigeria was regarded as the potential economic powerhouse that would become the giant of Africa, as the country was regarded as the largest producer of groundnut and palm oil and second largest producer of cocoa in the world. Then oil came and the economic direction of the country changed as oil is becoming the mainstay of the economy. Well, however, after 6 decades of independence, the country's oil and gas industry is currently underperforming despite rallying crude oil prices globally. This development has so far been attributed to the rising case of oil thefts and increased rates of pipeline sabotage in the Niger Delta, hampering the growth of the country's oil and gas exports. It will interest you to know that this monster has caused the nation's crude oil production to drop below 1 million barrels per day, as well as lost its status as the largest producer of crude in the African continent. What can we really say is the root cause of all of these contending issues? Well, to profile solutions and answers to some of these questions, I'm being joined via Zoom by an environmentalist and human rights activist, Miss Ann-Kio Briggs. Thank you so much for your time. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon.
Yes, 62 years gone down the lane after 1956 when we found oil at Oloibiri in Niger Delta. Take us through what has played out and how the Niger Deltans are coping with all of the negatives or the fallout of crude oil exploration before we go to what's being done and where we should be.
Well, it's very, to me, as a Niger Delta daughter, as a person from River State that produces oil and the region that produces oil. Luckily or unluckily, I don't know, but I grew up in the Niger Delta and I knew what the Niger Delta looked like. I knew what the creeks looked like before oil was found and before oil was exported as a concern, economic concern for Nigeria before independence. And I also know the after effect of the reckless exploration and exploitation of oil and gas in the Niger Delta region, because along with my community and so many other communities, I am a victim, a direct victim of the pollution of the exploitation that comes with the exploitation of oil and gas. And that is really, in my opinion and experience, is attributed by the fact that we have had governments after governments that have had no interest in ensuring that one basic human right is fulfilled in the Niger Delta region. And that is, it is a human right that everybody should be able to live in an environment that is conducive to their lives. That is, they should be able to live well in an environment that does not give them illness and sicknesses and things like that. And so when you look at it from that perspective, nothing has come out of the Niger Delta oil for the Niger Delta people. Now, before I go any further, I don't want to hear about NDDC, Amnesty, Ministry of Niger Delta. None of those things have been set up for the good of the Niger Delta people. It has always been set up to if you like, stay away whatever agitation that the Niger Delta people were prepared to come up with. Now, Nigeria takes away the resources that is in the Niger Delta. It doesn't put anything back, even geologically. It does not put anything back. So at some point, we may have the effects of global warming, and the reality, therefore, is that corruption is a major contributing factor of what has gone on in the Niger Delta. Yes, corruption, theft, oil theft. When people talk about oil theft, I smile because oil theft may be new to Nigeria in the past 10 years or so, but we know that oil theft has been going on long before Nigerian government and the oil companies accepted that oil theft was going on. Nigeria as a country cannot actually put their hand on their heart and say that we know how much oil is being lifted today. If you see, when they say, when they want to calculate, you say something like, we are producing below 100 million. No, if you know what is happening, you will know how many barrels of oil you're producing. You cannot be estimating how many barrels of oil you're producing. You cannot estimate how many cubic feet of gas that is coming out. And so the government, the oil companies, the forces, the security forces, the Navy are all involved in what has been going on for as long as actually, in looking back, for as long as oil has been found in the Niger Delta, and for as long as they've been selling it in the name of Nigeria, oil theft has been going on. So when we look at the pollution that we live with on a daily basis, and you look at the lack of development that is in the Niger Delta, and the level of corruption that is in the Niger Delta, I honestly, I wonder why my people and I still continue to accept that the Nigerian government have a right to continue to take the oil and gas that is in the Niger Delta, and that we, as a birthright, because of oil and gas, must continue to suffer the ills of the exploration and exploitation of oil and gas in the Niger Delta area.
Great one. Thank you so much for that. Now, let's talk about moves by government. We've heard about some cleanup exercise to be done. That's to address some of these contending issues. How far have we gone with that? That's on one side. And there are also claims by some of these international oil companies saying, we pay so amounts, we do this, we do that. Why? What can we do to address that corruption angle, which you also identified, that aspect of it? Because it's really important. IOCs will say, yes, we did what we're supposed to do for community support or CSR and all of that. But is it really trickling down?
Of course, it's not trickling down. That is the whole topic of discussion. Of course, it's not trickling down. Now going to the cleanup in the Niger Delta, let me emphasize here again that the UNEP report that was carried out by the United Nations in Ogoniland Ogoni was the entry point. Ogoni was used as the entry point, and rightly so, because we cannot go and do what the UNEP report did in Ogoni all over the place. But we can actually accept, and we know that it's not only Ogoni that is devastated. So if you take the devastation of Ogoni land and now come up with a proposal or recommendations of how to clean up the Niger Delta region, then that's good enough for the Niger Delta people, because it is just as bad in Ogoniland as it is in Bayelsa, as it is in River State. Now, it's almost 2 decades now, almost 2 decades since the UNEP report came out. Now, if you look at the UNEP report at the time it came out, and you fast forward to today, and you look at the value of Naira and the value of the dollar, you will see very clearly that that report, in terms of the amount of money that the UNEP report suggested is going to be needed to clean up Ogoni land, not the whole of the Niger Delta, mind you, Ogoni, where they had carried out the investigation was in Ogoni land. And so they are saying that what it would mean to clean up Ogoni land, and they came up with why they say so. The water is polluted, the air is polluted, we can't fish, we can't farm. So our livelihood has been taken away from us in the past, today, and even in the future. They also said, the report also said, that the level of pollution that is in Ogoni land will take a minimum of 30 to 50 years to completely clean up and bring it back to at some level. So that means, therefore, that with all the the spills and the pollution that has gone on since the UNEP report, then it means that it is just as bad, if not by 2 times or 3 times, by the standard that the UNEP report used. Now, people keep saying, oh, Ogoni land is being cleaned up. Osibanjo came and opened a plaque in one place in Ogoni land, and they said, oh, the cleanup is about to go on. There is no cleanup going on in Ogoni land. There is no cleanup that will go on in Ogoni land or in the Niger Delta region. So again, when we hear about cleanup, when we hear about what the oil companies are doing, look, for one, I have said it decades ago, I do not see the oil companies as into my community and build hospitals for me. No, I have the resources in my land that the oil companies are taking. Now, I want to be paid for the oil that is in my land so that I can build the best hospital for me and my people, or I will not build the best hospital for me and my people. But you cannot ask me to account. The federal government is not just unfair when it claims that it is doing this and it is doing that one. And then the oil companies say, oh, they are doing corporate, global corporate expectations in the Niger Delta. No, they are not. There is nothing in the Niger Delta that they can truly point at any time and say, we built this, and because we have built this, the lifespan of the people in Ogoni is no longer 45 years, it's now 55 years. If you don't have that information to verify what you have done in the community, then you have no right to claim that you have done those things. There is no need. If you build a hospital and the hospital is empty and there is no doctor there, so why did you build a hospital or the school or the water? Our water is polluted. I used to drink water from the well when I was a little girl, when my father brought me back when he was coming back from studying. I used to drink water from the well. Today, that very well I used to drink from in my grandfather's compound is polluted. When I'm going home, I buy bottles of water to go home to Abonima. So that is the story of a Niger Delta person. It is not my personal story alone. It is the story of the Niger Delta people. We breathe polluted air, we drink polluted water. People have not developed to the point where we no longer use the water we drink as a point of defecation. So when you look at these things and NNPC is claiming, or the Ministry of Petrol is claiming there is oil theft here, there is oil theft there, and they want to heap it on the Niger Delta people, it's not fair and it's not acceptable.
Now, I'll go back to staying a little bit around oil theft. Now, we see government trying to empower some ex-Niger Delta ex-agitators, saying that, okay, we need you to help guard this pipeline. Because NNPC is saying we lost about $4 billion last year. And at the moment, we've lost $1.5 billion on this same thing. And we are producing less than 1 million barrels daily. OPEC's quota is 1.8 million. What really do you think will be the solution to this? And the PIA, does it help in any way to address host community issues?
Let me put it like this. We would prefer that we don't have a PIA. We would prefer that we don't have NDDC, that we don't have Ministry of Petroleum, that we don't have NNPC, that we don't have any of these agencies that is controlled by the same corrupt government system that has put them in place. Is everything about the Niger Delta is controlled from Abuja. Now, when we begin to talk about development, you cannot convince a Niger Delta person today that the reason why the Niger Delta is not developed is because of the Niger Delta people. It is not true. Now, on the issue of giving pipeline protection to ex-agitators, ex-armed agitators in the Niger Delta, is incorrect. The pipeline protection, the one I am aware of that is on ground today, the contract has been given to a company that is owned by Tompolo. It was given by the government as a contract, is not as a payback, is not as anything, is a job he has to do. Let us get this clear. Now, he is not the only person in Niger Delta. There is a traditional ruler that owns some of the pipeline contracts. There is also a very rich Niger Delta son that also, his company also owns part of that pipeline protection contract. So it is wrong, and it is running away from the truth by just bringing out Tompolo and putting him out there and say Tompolo is an ex-agitator. He has got a contract to protect pipelines. No, it's not true. He bidded for it. He had this pipeline contract before Buhari came to power. He had that contract, and so did other ex-agitators in the Niger Delta had this similar contract. And then Buhari came along and retrieved the contract, and it reissued it to other people and dropped Tompolo's company. And Tompolo has been fighting them and got the contract back. So let us tell the truth at every point of the way, so that the people of Nigeria are aware, and particularly the Niger Delta people are aware of what is going on. Now, on the issue of oil theft, look, if you are breaking a pipeline, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to know what I'm going to tell you now. If there are pipelines of about 20, 30, 40 inches in diameter that is crisscrossing the Niger Delta region, some of them are up, you can see them, and some of them are down. Now, if you are doing that, and mind you, these pipes that we're talking about, they are not new pipes. They were laid in 1958 to 1960 when oil was being commercialized. Those pipelines are almost 62 years old or more. They are still there. They are corrosive. They are metal. Today, Dubai and other places, the pipeline they have is not corrosive. That's one aspect of it. So the lifespan of the pipelines in the Niger Delta is dead. And so it shouldn't surprise anybody that there are leakages here and there. So to constantly put the issue of pipeline leakages to assimilate that it is a Niger Delta people that are breaking the pipeline is not true. That it is technology that is supposed to control the pipelines. The oil companies know when they are when they are putting oil through the pipelines. They know how much oil they are putting through the pipeline, but they should know how much oil they are putting through the pipeline. And that's why I say Nigerian government does not know, has no idea of how much oil is being lifted. They just accept what Shell tells them, what Mobil tells them, or what any oil company tells them. They just accept it. Now, when ships are anchored off the ocean, far away from Bonny, far away from Bayelsa, when ships that can take 2 million barrels of oil, 1 million barrels of oil, that cannot come into the Niger Delta, and this oil theft is going on, you can't blame it on the Niger Delta people. How many of us own ships that can lift oil? Nobody. I don't know anybody in the Niger Delta that owns that. So when we talk about development, we want a situation where we control our resources. So when I am asked, what do I think the solution is? I've told you, the solution is we must have control over our own resources and pay tax to the federal government. Why? Because we're in Nigeria. If there comes a day that we're no longer in Nigeria, Nigeria cannot claim the oil in the Niger Delta. And who says that such a time will not come? So because why do people think, why does the government think that the Niger Delta people will continue, or that every Niger Delta person is prepared to continue under these circumstances, that we are totally deprived of anything? I grew up in Abonima from the 1956. From 1956 until about 1990 or 1980 something, before a small bridge was built for us to drive from my community. My own is even good. There are people in Kola, they produce oil and gas, and yet they can't get to Kola without taking a 1.5 to 2 hours boat ride. Look at Bonny. People cannot get from Port Harcourt to Bonny without going by boat into the mouth of the ocean. Our lives are at risk every day, and yet the money that is coming from the Niger Delta is not able to build good roads for us. Why does federal government have to have the right to build what they call federal government road? Why must we have roads of federal government? It's because they want to continue to take the resources and claim that they will use it to build roads. East-West Road is being built for over 30 years. The same with the bridge that should link River State, all other parts of River State and the Niger Delta region to Bonny. We are still talking about it. And it is only when the state governors build roads for what it is worth that we have roads in the Niger Delta. And yet the same money coming from the Niger Delta region is building autobahns in places in Nigeria where people don't have cars as we have them in the South. So when we continue to discuss this injustice and continue to align it with government, is bad governance. And quite honestly, I don't think Nigeria is going to have a reprieve on government and accountability unless we, the people, begin to agitate that we must have the right to decide our own future. And that's what self-determination is about. You can be self-determining in Nigeria. Every state can decide what it does with its own. Look, you have people producing oil in massive quantity. Tomorrow they will tell you oil is no longer viable. Fine. If it's no longer viable, leave it there. Let's have a moratorium on oil. Indeed. Because if we don't have a moratorium on oil, then other states cannot develop themselves. You have states that cannot pay their salaries, and they cannot generate enough internal revenue to pay their workers. But yet they survive. How do they survive? They survive from the oil and gas from the Niger Delta. And yet Niger Delta people are told that they are the devils and that they are the thieves of something that belongs to them. You cannot steal what belongs to you.
Right now. I must thank you. Very interesting conversation, I must say, and I think we should have part 2 of this discussion because it's actually taking me somewhere. Thank you so much, Ann-Kio Briggs, for your time on the show and making sense of this very important topic as we continue to celebrate 62 years of Nigeria's independence. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you.